G'day everyone, welcome back. In this video I thought I'd just run through the 5 main things that I wish I knew before I purchased any equipment. So let's jump in. Number 1 is buying the right equipment. It helps knowing what you want to shoot before you purchase anything. This is going to have a massive impact on the quality of the work that you can put out, because the lens and the camera will be suited for what you want to do. If, for example, you wanted to shoot surf, then getting a longer focal length, a 70 to 200, that's going to benefit you because you can sit on the beach and still capture those amazing things. If birds is your thing, then you're going to need to push that lens even further out and maybe get a 200 to 600 or 150 to 600, because it's super hard to get close to birds. They're naturally just super flighty animals. Really knowing what you want before you go to the shop to purchase stuff, you're going to end up saving money in the long run because you won't get sold something that you don't need. Number 2 would be probably one of the most important ones to consider when purchasing stuff, because the learning curve in photography is when you start, you know nothing about what you're doing. The camera's confusing, there's so many settings that you can play with, there's so many different variables that bring in a good photo. But what happens is you struggle, and then once you understand how a camera works and the limitations behind your camera and your lens, suddenly your photos go from rubbish to really good, really fast. So something that I wish I did earlier on was invest in better gear earlier, because if you go to the shop and you purchase, say, a $500 body, you buy a cheap kit lens with it, then you go out in the field and you start shooting, you're going to outgrow your camera's ability really fast. So it's something to consider. Cameras are super confusing when you start, but once you understand the basic principles of them, they're just a machine. They're limited in what they can do, and you're the creative person behind it. So that's really important to remember. Number 3 would be focusing on lenses rather than body. I'm shooting this right now on the Nikon Z7. This camera takes like phenomenal photos, but I've also matched it with really good quality glass. In the long run, this is going to pay off in dividends, because when you go out and you purchase your body, they're always updating cameras. Every year they seem to bring out another camera which is way better than the next and way better than the next, but the thing that doesn't really change is lenses. Once you start building up a good collection of lenses, you're not going to replace them. These things are good forever. If you take care of them, don't drop them, keep them dust free, keep them in a nice clean place, these things are going to stay in perfect condition and their resale is going to stay the same. Number 4, which is super important, and it's something that's typically overlooked, I feel, you got to remember that a camera is the thing that you use to take the photo. It's just a tool. The most important thing to remember is that photos happen creatively in the mind first. This is something that if you're feeling limited in your ability to capture shots, like maybe you're not thinking creatively enough about how to capture them with the gear that you have. If I think back about the photos that I'm super happy with in my career, nearly every single one of them has required pre-planning. It's not a shot I just went out and nailed on spec. It's a shot that I've put energy into, I've thought about, and I've worked within the limitations of my gear, my lens, my camera, and all the settings that come involved with it. If I needed to bring light, I bought light. All the great photos that you see, they've had elements of planning put into them, and that's super important to remember. Number 5 is resale, and it's something that's not really talked about too much. Buying high level equipment, it holds its value really well, especially lenses. You could buy a lens for $3,500 and in 3 years time you could sell it for $3,000. So you're not actually losing a great deal of money by investing the money in these things. Camera bodies do tend to dip a little bit more, especially if you're buying the lower end equipment. If you're kind of under the $1,500 mark for camera bodies, they are going to drop in value just because the technology is advancing so fast that the next camera they bring out is 100 times better than the one they've got now. But lenses tend to stay the same. When you're purchasing lenses, make sure you're buying them with the widest aperture possible. You're not going to lose a great deal of money over the lifetime of that lens if you keep it in really good condition. So I hope this information's been helpful. It's definitely things that I wish I knew before I purchased all my equipment. I've been through a bunch of iterations of gear, and progressively I've just stepped it up, investing more and more over time. But if I had to go back in time and do things differently, I probably would have bought a more expensive body straight up, and I would have spent more money on better lenses straight away. I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars of lenses, and I've bought some, sold some, and in the long run I haven't really lost that much money in the equipment that I've kept. If this is your first time on the channel, thanks for stopping by. I'm going to be doing a heap of videos teaching everything I know about videography and photography. It'd mean a lot if you could just hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Cheers guys, see ya.